Today I'm going to introduce, this is the first step of introducing JavaScript. Last time, after a lot of you left, I diddled around with it on the computer just to do a demonstration. It wasn't really intended to be, the camera was still on, unfortunately, and only part of the thing showed. But the point of it is that whenever I do a video, and I look at them, I have to look at them because I have to upload them, and I see something's missing on the screen, it isn't there. What I do then is I either do one of two things. Either I take the real programs that I'm writing on the board and put them right next to this so you'll see what the program really looked like. You can look at it. In other words, you may not see it on the screen, but if you just list the program, you'll see it. It's the same program. That's one thing I do. And the other thing, sometimes I actually go and make a video, a little short video to cover that spot again. So everything that you miss on the screen will be on the site eventually. You know, that next day or so. Because it might take me a day to figure out what I have to do to correct. Everything from the one hour class is online. It will be online, or a version of it will be online. You won't miss anything. Okay, I want to be sure you know that. Up to this point, we've been doing HTML and also style sheets. I'm sort of mixing them together, but they work together, so it makes sense to mix them together. What I'd like to do is I'd like to today kind of just throw in a couple more style sheet things, or just to make sure I've got everything that you really need. See, I didn't go through the hundreds of possibilities. This could be, we could spend a whole course on style sheets. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to just get the things we need to get off the ground, so you can actually create a page, and so we can incorporate all the stuff we want to do. And you have to have some little minimal amount of stuff. So what I'm doing is I'm actually presenting that, I'm trying to streamline it down to that minimal stuff we need. But you do need to have the possibilities. So I'm going to put them in here. The first thing is we did this instruction in class already. Body and style. What color is that? Color?
Black.
Black, right? Black. Good. No, FFFFFF would be all white, because all the red, green, and blue would all be lit up. So therefore, white's made of all those three combinations. So this means that no color is wrong. So here's the problem. If you actually started the page now and you wrote something, you wrote hello. Well, what would happen is the hello, which is written in black, would be against the black, so you wouldn't be able to see it. Be invisible. So what you have to do if you're doing something like this and you plan to put text on the screen, you've got to actually tell the text to be a different color so you can actually see it. You can make it yellow or white or whatever you want. So what I want to do is, the simplest way out is just simply to make it white. And I could have said right here, I could have said black. You know that, right? There are some colors that you can actually put in. Just black. You can do that. There's no difference between that pound 0000000. They're exactly the same. Okay, so that's, and it doesn't make any difference. I just changed that just to show you that you can have it. I could have left it the same way. But now the question is, what I want to do now is I want to put the color of the text a different color. If I say color, really weird, colon, white. That'll do it. It's kind of strange. You know, when they make up these computer languages, they pick a word. I mean, there's probably 3 geeky guys sitting there saying, well, let's call it white, and you know, let's call it blank or clear, or you know, they throw all these things around. They finally come out with one. Probably the one who's writing the program probably uses the word that. So what happens is the entire world has to work with whatever they came up with that day. I would think, this is just, I mean, you would probably think the same thing. What they should say is font color, shouldn't they? Because we're going to make the font white. But no, they just say color. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It's just colors. It's kind of silly. Why wouldn't they put color for the background color? I mean, who knows? So this is just, I'm just saying this because none of this stuff is something that you should feel like, oh my God, this is hard to learn. It's just geeky people putting stuff together, and you have to memorize whatever they did, because those are the tools we have, okay? So don't ever feel like, oh geez, why didn't I think of that? You couldn't think of that. There's no way to think of it. That's just what they chose to do. So now what happens is the word hello will be in white, and the background color is going to be black, so you'll be able to actually see the words, okay? So remember that. When you're doing a style sheet, and you want to put a black background, and all of a sudden, this is, people have done this. I mean, I get emails of people, but they suddenly said, I put a black background and now I can't see anything. Yeah, of course, because they have to turn, or they might have tried to do this, and they might have done this. Some kind of a little mistake, some kind of, put the wrong character in there. This, don't forget, between what color it is and the color itself, it's got to be colon. These semicolons right here are just between the actual complete command and that complete command. It separates them. So the semicolons aren't really, you don't use the semicolons in the program itself. This is like a program instruction. Semicolon, another program instruction, semicolon, and so forth. Okay, so does everybody see that? I got a program online that shows you it too. So you just run it and look at the code that runs it, and you'll see how it's put together. Now, when you see my programs, here's what's going to happen. All the programs that I write for you, I put up there, and then I assume that you can actually do a right shift on the mouse, and you can select view the source code. So you can actually see how the program is created. You can see the source code behind it. The problem with that is when you look at that source code as a blob, it looks like, oh my, even me, even how you wrote the stuff. I look at that and I see all these lines of code and I go, oh my God, look at all that stuff. So what you do have to do is, it's very simple. You've got to keep your mind clear when you're programming. Go to the very first line, the second line, the third line, go a line at a time and say, do I know what that means, and what this means, and what this means? Make sure you know what every single line means. And then the whole thing will come into place. Now that's when you're reading the code. When you're making up a web page, you don't think like that. You forget coding. Coding's not important. When you're actually making a web page, the first thing you have to do is you have to say, what am I trying to accomplish here? What do I want it to look like? So you think in your head, well, I'd like to have a big fat screen here, and I'd like to have the word hello right in the middle of it, and let's see, and I'd like to have that white and the rest of it black. Once you establish what you want, then you make the code do what you want. I mean, that's the way you start. You do it, right? It's a backwards process. It isn't like you see the thing and then you look to see how it was done. This is the case where you have the product and now you make it do what you want it to do. So in this case right here, if I wanted this to be like this with a black background and a white hello, well, that line's perfectly good. That would work, right? Because I would have the correct things. But the rest of the program would look like this. I got one more thing to put there. You tell me what it is. I want it to look like this. Let's say I want these things to be 50 pixels tall. 50 pixels tall. I want it to be a tall hello right in the middle.
Font size, 50.
What did I miss?
There you see like font size or something.
Right,
font
right.
height and size.
So over here I need one more thing, don't I? Font size.
Can you also say text size, or does it have to be font?
What? No, you can't just use size.
Or you cannot say text size, it
No,
has to be font size?
it's their lingo. That's what they came up with. That's what they came up with, right? Font size, but you do have an option here. If I wanted 50, if I say 50 pixels, which is the official way, that'll work. If you say 50, it'll do 50 pixels automatically, which means it's height in pixels, okay?
So the PX is a little bit redundant.
PX, yeah, a little PX. Jam it right in. 50 PX is all one blob. Like, don't do this. Don't do, oops, 50 and then PX over here. Don't do that. But jam it right in against it.
No space.
Okay, the thing is, the basic rule is don't use any spaces in here at all from one quote to the other, okay? But you do have a space here, don't forget that, you do need that. Now, when you run this program, it's disgusting. Okay, I don't have OCD. Okay. So, that right there is how you would create that page right there. It would look just like that. Does that all make sense? Do you see what every line here does, what it all does? Yeah?
Is there supposed to be a colon behind white?
A colon where?
Behind white? Right before font size?
This is a colon, yeah?
Okay,
It does look like a colon? Okay. About that. Yeah, you know, I should be more careful because I realize when you're back there, it's hard to see the little blobs I'm throwing down here. In fact, I noticed that when I was doing one of them, I put a colon down, a semicolon down, like this. But unfortunately, this was so light that you could hardly see it from the video. You might have seen it in person, but you didn't see it in the video, so you didn't know it was a semicolon. I'll try to be careful of that. This right here is a semicolon right here. Keep them separated from each other. That's a colon. Wait a minute. That's a semicolon right there.
Yeah, that was the question.
Yeah, that's a sorry about that. That's a semicolon. Because it's between color white and font size, yeah, okay. I get a little myopia. When I'm close to the board here, it's hard to see what's going on. That's my excuse anyway. Okay, so there we go. We have a program will do it. There's one other little thing I want to show you about that's not essential, not needed. In fact, it's outlived its usefulness. No one even uses it anymore. But I'm going to throw it in just so you'll know. You might see it in the program and you might want to use it for something. In the head starts here, the head ends here. In between the head, you can add another little tag called title. The title tag, okay? And then what happens is you can give it any title you want. I'll call it, how about Lord? Like, you know, title, a peerage title, Lord. And then you put slash title to end it. There it is right there, title and slash title. This right here, now where does it appear? It doesn't appear anywhere in the program. It's in a weird place. Like if you're running Chrome's like this, it's like this. Whatever's down here, the hello would be here and so forth. Up here in the corner, up in the tab, you'll see the word Lord.
So would that be like the name of the website content or something?
It's like the name of a file, really. That's kind of like what it is. It isn't the name of a file, but it gives you the impression it's an outside external name, right? Now, there are things you can actually do with that. We're going to get into them, but if you look up title, it'll tell you some other things that you might, be interested in knowing. But for our purposes, that's all. It just appears up here. And the worst part is, if your title is, the peerage of ancient Britain or something like that, you only get a few words up here and it'll go right off the edge and you won't see it anymore. So you don't get the entire title. It doesn't expand to fill in the whole title. So it's kind of hokey. It's a leftover. So that's why people don't use them very much anymore. So title, why did I put title down here? It should be, sorry about that, I put it in the wrong place. So it should be here.
Was this more common before modern web browsers where you can have umpteen bazillion tabs open simultaneously? Where especially it just runs off the screen at that point? The text that you put in the title space?
It doesn't make it any bigger.
I mean, was it more popular before web browsers with umpteen bazillion tabs were invented?
Yeah, I think it was put in a different spot. Sometimes it was put, back in the old days, we used to have Netscape, we had different programs, we had different browsers. Sometimes it would be put down here, sometimes it would be put up here very boldly, you'll see it. It would make a lot of sense. But that was back, these browsers are gone, they're obsolete now. But, things change, you have to keep up with the times. So title sort of lost its, it's fluxy, it's not there anymore. So all I want to show you with this program is very simple, is that you can put a title in if you want. I wouldn't get into that if I were you, because everything that you write introduces the possibility of a typo of some kind and a mistake. And every mistake, sometimes it's hard to find a mistake when it's in some weird place like this. If you mistype something, it goes on down below and everything's all whacked out and you don't know why. The reason why is because something in this line might have been mistyped, okay? So don't put anything that you don't have to. That's a good rule of thumb. And title, unessential, but you might see it, so I thought I'd put it there for you. And I can show you online, I got a little program that shows you how to do it. Okay, and that's it. So the only thing I want to get out here is one single thing. This is how you make font color. And you use the same thing. You use pound, any combination, C, D, A, B, C, whatever you want to use. Or you can use the actual words. All the words are not there, but quite a few of the words are. For example, I wrote some pages, and I used words like tan. That's a color, and it works. I used aquamarine. That worked. And what else I use? I think green. Chartreuse. Yeah, I used chartreuse. Even that worked. So it takes some of the words it has. You don't know. You ever know? I mean, it's sort of like a paint set. You don't know what colors you're going to get. So basically, my approach to the thing is I go online. I say HTML color in Google, and it comes up with these charts. And every color's got one of these things on it that tells you, whether it's CD, AB, or something like that. It has these 6-letter codes, and I usually use those codes if I want to get some subtle color, because you can see exactly what you're going to get when you put it down. There's one thing I have to warn you about, though, and this is the problem with those charts. They put a little box with the colors in them like that, and they sort of, it'll be like heavy green, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter. When you see things in that sort of single color rainbow effect, it kind of throws your eyes off as to what you're really going to get. So what you ought to do is, copy down a couple of them and then try one. If it doesn't work, then go to one of the other ones. In other words, that little blob of colors is going to confuse you a little bit. It's almost like the reversal stuff in your eyes. When you watch certain colors and then you turn away, the reverse color will show. It gives you some kind of effect like that. So you've got to be careful, especially when you're using bright colors that might be bright pastels, and that's all you have is one of those, this thing here, for example. If I just had that in front of my eyes for a while, when I look away, a different color is going to be in my eyes. So you got to be careful of that kind of stuff. When you're building a web page, you have to think about those things, because unlike a piece of paper, this thing is lit up and it's throwing that light into people's eyes. It's very intense, and you don't realize it until you look away, and you still see the frame of the screen. No matter where you look, it's still there. Then you realize this thing is it's a screen. Okay, that's it. That's all there is for this. And now I'm going to proceed directly to our talking to JavaScript. Okay, this is the new age. Okay, I'm going to do a little prep work here. To begin with, when you introduce something like JavaScript or some other weird thing into a language, some weird thing, it has to have, HTML only has certain words it understands, certain tags. There's only certain tags, it understands HTML, head, body, /head, BR, and understands certain things. So you got to be sure that your HTML code has this code, and they did. They put codes into it that allow you to get out of HTML. And the code that I want to use, I'm going to approximate it first. Okay, it's like this HTML. That starts off and says, okay, this is an HTML program, and this is the head, right here. And they have a new tag called script, space, language, equals JavaScript. So, what happens is that word script is that just exactly the word. It's like an escape hatch. You're in HTML, you're in HTML, you're in HTML, and says, whoops, we're not in HTML anymore. Now we're in JavaScript. So a different interpreter. They have two different interpreters. One program comes in and looks at all the things that are inside those special chevrons you make. And then the other one, when it sees that you go in a different language, JavaScript, a different program, then starts looking at the code. It starts looking at whatever's in here. HTML can't look in here because it isn't part of its language. It's a different language. So when you say, I'm going to use JavaScript, there's a program in your computer that comes in and starts looking at the JavaScript. Now this is this is hard to explain sometimes, but I'll try it, see what happens. When you write a computer program, is your program, you write a computer program, okay? But what happens is, you write the program kind of in a semi-English. Go, write the band. If A equals B, do something. This, okay, whatever, okay. If you write the code, I'm a programmer, I wrote this code in a piece of paper on the computer, I put it into the computer. The computer doesn't know what those words are, it doesn't understand those words, so it can't do anything on those words. So what you have to have is what they call a compiler, something that takes the words that you have written and translates them into computerese, which is binary, all kinds of binary stuff, okay? So what happens is, they call this thing a compiler because it looks at this line, translates it, and puts it away, looks at the next line, translates it, and puts it away. So it makes, for every line that you have here, it'll make a line in memory, which which is exactly what the computer understands, the equivalent to that. So the little program knows that if you say an if statement, well, that's number 65, and it gives it the 65, and this is a different number, a different number. So it knows exactly what it's putting away. So what happens is when you say run a program, okay, what happens is you're running this program, you're not running that one. In this one, you compile this one, you say compile my program, so it takes this program and it puts it away as a compiled program. That's the one that you run. Normally, that's how everything works. If you buy a program online and you download it to your machine and you open it up, you know, like Paint, any of those programs, they're actually, they're code. You can't list them because they're code. They're written in machine code, okay? The program that originally made it into that is gone now because the compiler came in, looked at this, translated it, and put it in here. This is now the one you run. This is the one they send to you. You can't undo it. It looks entirely different than the original. So, I'm lying to you a little bit. There is a way to undo some of it, but that's the technicality. So basically, here's what happens. When you buy a program, no matter what it is, and you download it to your machine, you run it, what you have is a program that's compiled. It's in machine language, and when you say run, it knows immediately, the machine knows exactly what to do. It does what it's supposed to do. JavaScript is a totally different concept. It's a totally different idea. Here's how it works. Because of the fact it's online, it's not something that's in your machine, it's something that you're pulling down from the web. Here's how JavaScript works. If you have a set of JavaScript instructions like, if A equals B, do this, blah, 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 and C equals A plus B or something like that, whatever you have, whatever instructions, you don't care what they are yet. The way JavaScript works is this. When you run your program and it has JavaScript in it, the computer looks at this line as it's running it and says, translate this into machine language. It's called an interpreter. It interprets what this is in its own machine language, just like the compiler, except it only does one line. And then it runs that line. So in other words, it says, interpret the line, run it. Interpret this line, run it. Interpret this line, run it. So in other words, what JavaScript does, it has an interpreter behind it. So, and by the way, HTML has an interpreter also, because it doesn't know what to do. This doesn't make sense to your computer. So the interpreter looks at this, the HTML interpreter looks at this and says, oh, what they mean is we have this special program that's going to be written a certain way. So it goes to the compiler, head, okay, this instruction means we're at the head part of the, no, it talks to your machine in machine language, but it reads the stuff you wrote, and it's exactly the same with the JavaScript. When it gets down into here, the JavaScript interpreter is looking at every line of code and turning it into machine language and making it do its thing. Okay? So there's a couple of steps in there, and there's an important point about that. If you get a program like a C language, C++ language program, it compiles the whole thing into one blob, and immediately when you run it, it just has to carry out the instructions, because the instructions, the computer knows exactly what it's doing. If you have a JavaScript program, totally different world. Every line has to be looked at, translated, and then run. Look at, translate, run. So you can see the amount of time it takes to do it is considerably longer. It's quite a different operation. That's the reason why, if you, WoW for example, the reason why WoW doesn't have an online game they rather have you download a big section of the game is because what you download is a compiled version of the program, and it runs instantly. It runs very, very fast. If you had to run a game that was actually in JavaScript, it would run, it would really be slow. People would be moving around like this, and before you knew it, you'd be expired. You wouldn't have to worry about ping because you'd be gone. But so basically, there's a difference between the two, and I want to tell you that that has been a big obstacle for JavaScript getting to become what it is today, which is a very formidable language. The reason why is because it takes so long to interpret it and make the thing go. So here's what they've done today. In the computer, every single instruction is carried out by the central processing unit. Every single instruction has to go through this little tiny place, and it has to go. It does every single instruction. Sometimes they'll give you a bunch of CPUs, like you might have 4 of them, for example. Quad machines have 4 of them. So what they do is they distribute the instructions so that they get as parallel, get a bunch done at once and do something. They're doing that all the time. So in other words, a quad machine runs even faster than a regular 1 CPU machine. The more CPUs you have, the more things they can do, because the doing part of the machine is the CPU, the central processing unit. So basically, a modern computer has 4 of them, but still that's pretty slow. When you start getting into interpreting what this is, converting it into machine language and making it go, you still are, it's draining a lot of machine power and it's slow, okay? I mean, you know, it's in microseconds, but it's still very slow. So here's what they did. In recent years, they made a big change. Aside from the CPU, you have a graphics board. The graphics board draws the pictures on the screen. It used to be done in the CPU, and then they invented the graphics board. It's called the GPU. It's the graphics processing unit. And here's what happens. All the calculations are done in here, and then to draw the picture, it jumps to the GPU and arranges all the pixels on the screen. So when you have 2 things running at the same time, you have this running doing its job, passing stuff off to this guy, which is drawing the screen. But this thing has to draw this big screen with, 2,000 things and however big your screen is, and some of them are absolutely huge. So basically, when they started making this thing, they got into a different idea, a totally different idea than the CPU. What they decided to do was be able to process a whole bunch of stuff at one instant of time. Okay, it's like mass processing. So what they do is, instead of saying, do this instruction, do that instruction, do the next instruction, do the next instruction, the way the GPU is, you send it 1,000 or 10,000 instructions at once, and it does them all right at the same instant, parallel to each other. That's operating in parallel. So it can do a heck of a lot more in the same period of time. Well, at first it was only drawing the graphics board, but that idea was so good that these guys said, if we could somehow do our calculations on the graphics board, we can move much faster with interpreted languages. So what they did with these guys is, they did it in such a way that now JavaScript goes up here, gets its calculations done in the fastest possible piece of computing is in your box, and therefore it now can run in very, very fast time. It's a whole different universe. And that's the reason why JavaScript, just within the last, I would say 2 or 3 years at the very most, even less than maybe 2 years, yes, that is now up to standards. You can run very, very fast graphical stuff on it, which you could never before. There was no way to do it. Okay? And that's what they've done. They've taken advantage of the GPU. Now, I have to tell you, most of the programs we write don't do that. At the end of near about the last month and a half of the course, we do that. We're using GPU all the time, but you don't even know it. It does it behind the scenes. You don't have to worry about it. But you will see that 3-dimensional objects can be moved around in real time. They can do stuff in real time. And they only do that because that graphics board is doing all the work, all the calculations. Because everything that moves has to be calculated. Where is it? What angle is it at? How far is it forward? And all that has to be all calculated. What color is it? All those things. So the point is that I just brought you through the history quickly. JavaScript in the old days was run through the CPUs. It wasn't fast enough because interpret and run was slow. But nowadays you take this and throw it up there, interpret and run is very fast, and that's why they're doing it, and that's why it works. So we now have real graphics, real online graphics. So they could, for example, put WoW on in JavaScript if they wanted to. They probably don't want to because they got so much going on now that even that would be even the GPU would be worn out trying to keep up with it because it's such a big program. But anyway, that's the idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to use JavaScript, which is an interpreted language, which is built in to the browsers. All the browsers can look at it and understand what it is. So as soon as it hits this instruction right here, it says, okay, the browser will now start looking at JavaScript, okay? For now, in the first part of the program, I'm just going to ignore that for a couple seconds here. I'm going to go like this, /script. Okay, that's it. The script is over, the head is over, and now I'm in the body. Like so. Okay. Now here's the thing. You don't normally write programs by writing down the code and trying to figure out what you want to do. Before you write the program, you know what you want to do, and you're writing the program to do what you want to do. So you have to kind of know what you're trying to accomplish. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to write down the screen and what I want this thing to do, and then I'm going to say, do it for me, okay? So here's the thing. Supposing I say, the simplest of all programs. I want my screen to look like this. It's going to say, enter a word. It's going to put a box right here. So I'm going to be able to type a word in here. And then I'm going to press this button right here. It's going to say press on it or something. I'll put something on the button. And then what's going to happen is, just like we did in the last class, that word, whatever I type in here, X, Y, Z, whatever I type in here, will come back out here, X, Y, Z. So here's what I want this to do. I want this program to be able to say, put this on the screen, and then I'm going to be able to type into this thing right here, hit that button, and that word's going to appear down here, okay? And that's what I want to do. Okay, the question is, how do I do it? Well, to build the screen right here, to make this stuff look, what I have to do is put everything I need down in the body area, because that's what builds the screen, okay? And then everything that's going to do calculations, I'm going to put up in the JavaScript area. But I'm going to have to show you how to connect the two, because you got two worlds here. You got the thing that builds the screen, then you got the behind-the-scenes JavaScript doing calculations or whatever it's going to do, and coming back with the answer. So you have to get used to the two worlds that are going on. So let's start off right here. We're in the body, and let's do the body world. So let's center everything. Okay, I suppose you want to put this all in the center, kind. So what I would do is, you tell me. I want to center everything. So how do I do it? What do I write? Remember anything? What does it equal? I want to center everything.
Body style equals
What?
center text.
Align.
Gotcha.
Text align, colon, center.
Center. Okay, there we go. It's a good start. That's it. So what do you think? Now we know that everything's going to be centered. It's going to be like a little center sort of like this. Next thing I want to do is I want to write the word enter. Okay? Like so. So the word enter will go on the screen like it is over there. But after enter, I want to put a box in there, which is going to be the input box. And I'm going to show you how to do
So
that.
you do script language equals JavaScript now?
What?
You do script language equals JavaScript?
This is JavaScript. We're not in JavaScript.
Okay.
Everything we're doing here is still just regular HTML.
Okay.
It's code that's built in HTML. Okay, say enter right here. Then what you do is you put this right here. I'm gonna put it here, but I could put it down here, but I need the space, so I'm gonna put it out here. Don't forget, if I don't put a BR here, it's gonna go up there anyway, so it's gonna be right there. So if I say input, that's a magic word. As you see, because of the fact it's next to one of these chevrons, it's like this and like that and like this. It's a HTML word. Input is an HTML word, right? Okay, I'm going to say ID equals, there's a space here, space right here, got that space right there. ID equals, and I put a quote mark, and I'm going to give it a name of some kind. I'm going to call it N1, just to have a name on it, unquote. In other words, I'm creating something. When you create something, you put quotes around it, because it's not one of the magic words that HTML understands. Input is, ID is, in1 is not. So you want to put something around. This is my word I'm putting in here. It's my name. So I'm calling, what I'm doing is I'm going to call this input right here. Whatever's in this area, this going to create this rectangle. Whatever's in this rectangle, I'm going to give it the name in1. So it's like a variable. And the in1 is going to be its name. That's how you do that. Okay? Then you say type, space right here. And you say type equals, quote, text. Unquote. Like so. And there it is. It's that simple. That will create a little box for you. Okay? I haven't talked about the size of the box yet, but don't worry about that. It'll create, it has a default. It'll create, maybe it'll let 20 letters in or something like that. It's just a little box. Okay? So that's step number one. Now at this point what I've done is, I've created this right here. Both of these things are ready. The enter and the box are all there. Then what I do is I want to get down here to put the button in. So I say is BR. No, what I'm doing is I'm looking at what I want and I'm writing the instructions to do what I want to do. So I say BR, and now I got to put the button in that spot right there. It's going to be centered automatically, but let's see how you put the button. The button looks like this. It's an input also. And its type equals, quote, button.
Is there a space between input and type or no?
What?
Is there a space between the word input
Yes.
and the word?
There's a space right here.
Okay.
Let's make this a rule. Let's make this a rule. From now on, if you have a tag of any kind, and you're going to write any further stuff, put a space after the tag, okay? So if it's body, for example, there's a space after it. Whatever you have, input is a tag, so put a space after it to start writing this stuff. So this is going to be a button. See, the other one was text. The other one was just a box of text. This one's going to be a button, okay? And when I say, another space right here, when I say value, I'll make the spaces bigger, you'll get to see them, equals, press me. You can say anything you want. It's in quotes, so it's your words, whatever you want to put here. What that would do is it would create this button right here with the word press me on it. It's a button. A button that when you hit it with the mouse, it does something. Press me, that's the first thing. Now the question is, what happens when you hit it with the mouse? What is it going to do? Well, what I want to do is, because when I press, I want to go up to the JavaScript and move this data down to here. I can only do that in JavaScript. You can only move stuff around in JavaScript. So what I'm going to do is, when it press me, I'm going to jump up to the JavaScript function, do something, and then come back. So the thing is, I say press me, it means take me away to the JavaScript function, which we don't have yet. We don't have one yet. So I'm going to put the name of the function, at least the name of it, up here right now, because I want to have a place to jump to. So I give it the name, and the word is function. You've got to use the word function. That's required. Space. And then you give it a name. Let's call it move it. I'll call it move it, okay? M-O-V-E-I-T. I just gave it that name. That's the name of the function. We just gave it a name. It is a function, space, and that's the name it is. And then what I'm going to say is, I'm going to receive a. That's a variable. Okay, it's a variable. And then I'm going to say, open, close. These right here are braces. They're braces, you know, like you go to the orthodontist and they brace you up. They're braces, okay? That's what it is. And all the code we're going to write is going to be in between. It's only one line of code, so I left the room here. I got room here to write it. So in this case, it's only one line of code. But the function always starts with a brace, ends with a closing brace. And in between it, all the code that you're going to write is in between that someplace. Okay? So, now I'm going back to the HTML again. It says press me. Now what I want to do is, when I press the button, I want to jump up to that function. So I say the word on click. There's a space right here. On click equals quote mark. Put the name of that function, which is move it. Open parentheses. Then I want to take whatever they typed into in1. I want to take whatever they typed in right here, XYZ or whatever they typed in. I want to take that and send it up to the JavaScript. So what you do is you say on click move it. I take what they typed and what they typed is in1. That's what's called in1. But it's also the value of in1. So in other words, I'm not taking the length of it, I'm taking the value of it. That means I'm sending something up, whatever they type in here. If I type in hello, then hello is in here. If I type goodbye, then goodbye is in here. If I didn't put in the value, it wouldn't know what to send up there. It wouldn't send the right thing up there, okay? So you gotta put dot value, that's what you gotta do. Put some value, whatever's inside this N1, you wanna send it up there. And now what you do is, you end these quotes. The quote starts at the beginning here, it ends right here, and then you put that in, and you're done. That's done. So there's the button. The button's all set to go. Now you notice something. In this guy right here, I gave it the name N1. That's because I'm going to have to address it. I'm going to say, take N1 and send it someplace. But I don't do anything with the button. I just press it. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't do anything. So it doesn't need an ID. If you gave it an ID, it would work. Now while we're at this level right here, I'm going to talk about some things. ID equals N1 and type equals text. Those could be reversed. You could have them in a different order. It would still work. It turns out that it doesn't care. These lines don't care where you put anything. So I could put type equals button over here and value equals press me over here, or online click move it over here. You can move them all around as long as you have space between them, because this is like one thing, this is a different thing, this is a different thing. As long as these guys are separated by space, you can put them any order you want. You get your own, you get familiar with it and you'll do it whatever. You probably do it the same way every time when you get used to it. So therefore, what this now has is an ability to go up to the function and send with it whatever you typed in over here. If I type XYZ in here, this XYZ will be sent up to here and it will arrive here as A. Down here it's called N1.value, up here it's called A, because whatever is in these parentheses here comes up and it's pushed right into that spot, and that becomes exactly the same word. So whatever you typed in is now A in the local, in that function, okay? So, next question is, I want to make a place down here so I can send information. I'm going to make a place down here, this right here. I have to make this receiving spot. Believe it or not, it's called an input also. It's an input area. It just says this is an input area, and here it is. And I call that one a different name. So I say input ID, space right here. ID equals, I'm going to give it the name out1, like that. So it has a name now, out1. And its type, it's got a space right here. Its type is also text. Text. And that's it. Done. That's it right there. That's the return. So this right here will create that box. And its name is out1. So here's what happens. Let me finish off the program. The program is basically over. I say /body and /HTML, and it's over. You save it and it's ready. It's ready to go. This program is all ready now. And let me show you how it works. It's actually it's not quite ready. I need this one instruction right here. I haven't done anything yet. I got to do. No, I sent this information up to here, but I haven't translated it to here yet. Transferred it to there. I'm going to do that right now. The out name of this thing is out1.
So does that go between the two braces then?
What?
That goes between the two braces?
Yes, it has to be between these guys. It has to be in here because this is within this function right here. You've got to put, the out1 has to be between these two guys, okay? Out1.value, because we're trying to send a value down to that thing, just like it sent a value up to us, equals A. And here's what that does. I'm going to tell you also, in the function move it A, do not put a semicolon there. Don't put a semicolon there. Don't put a semicolon anywhere in any of these braces, but do put a semicolon at the end of every line of code. You say, computer do this, semicolon. Computer do that, semicolon. Just inside of the JavaScript language. It requires a semicolon, so it knows when it ends one instruction, it goes on to the next one. It has to know that. That's a special punctuation, a semicolon, okay? So you say, JavaScript do this, semicolon, it's over. It does the instruction and it's over. So, in this case right here, here's what happens. In all computer languages, the variable on this side, when it sees an equal sign, is transferred to that side. That's how all computer languages work. So what happens is, let me proceed through this whole program and watch what happens. You start off, when you write the program, you get this right here. Okay? You get this, that's what you see. And then what you do is you take your mouse and put it in here and you write ABC right there, ABC, okay? So when you write that, this now contains ABC. And then when you say press me, it takes that ABC and sends it up to here, and now ABC is in here. A is now, represents ABC. And then what you're saying is, take that ABC and put it into out one dot value, which is this down here, into its value. And as soon as you do that, ABC will appear on the screen right here. And then the function comes to an end and it's over. It's done everything it has to do. Program done. Okay? A little bit of stuff there, but not so bad. This input, this button, and this output. These guys right here are very commonly seen in programs where you type something in, you have a button to send the information up above, and then a place for the answer to come back. That's a very common kind of program. Okay? And where you send it to is right here, the JavaScript. Right there. That's the whole JavaScript function right there. Questions?
Now with the braces, are they supposed to be on their own line, or is it out one supposed to be next to the braces?
Typically, of these languages, they don't care. The reason why I do it this way is because sometimes, if you suppose you write something, you say, let's say this part right here. Suppose you wrote the function. Oh, sure, it's a visual thing. Function. Move it. A semicolon. Out one value equals A, like that. You can do that. You can do that. But you see, then you have the problem of fixing stuff. And this one right here, if I made, supposing I accidentally made this thing backwards, I didn't put it the right way, very easy just to go in this line and change it to the right direction. Over here, it might be a little more nuisance for you to try to do it. And the more junk you have on the line, the more, what's going on here. You start to type over wrong things and right things, and it gets hard to do. So a lot of the things I show you on the board, unfortunately, is because of the way I actually write, is try to keep things, stay out of your own way. Because a lot of it is, typos are very, very important. It won't run. If there's a typo, it won't run. And so it gets frustrating after a while because you're trying to fix something and you're putting other mistakes into it instead of fixing it. You're complicating the problem. But if you write this and it's written just the way it's written here, I hope I didn't make any type. Let me look at this again before I say that. HTML, head, script language, JavaScript, function, move it, open, do that, close script, close head, body, input, ideas in one type's good, the value is good. I need one more thing though. I need a VR over here to get this down to here.
Otherwise, would the press me
It would stay up there.
ABC
It would stay up there,
same
yeah.
line?
Yeah. If there's enough room. If it runs out of space, if it's too far to the right, it'll throw it down. But then you're depending on something, you don't know how big their screen is or any of that stuff. If you want to keep control over stuff, don't go by what your screen does. Go by what anybody's screen might do. You got to be careful of that because some people have less pixels. It's different. Okay. So if you that's why, for example, I always resist writing stuff to the right-hand side of the screen, because if my screen is like this and their screen is like this, you see all this stuff over here is going to fall off the edge. It becomes kind of a nuisance. Okay. But if you can't stick to the left, upper left over here, you're good, because whatever size screen they have, it'll work. And that's why I always sort of keep stuff like that. And centering is okay too, because it will center on their screen no matter how big it is. It will center properly. Okay, so no matter how big the screen is. But right side, that's a different question. I don't know how it will work, because the screen not the right size. Does that kind of make sense to you? Okay, so that's the first program. Now I'm going to add. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write another program. But here's what I'm going to do. I think I can fix this one to do it. Yeah, I think I can. Okay, I'm going to have to work a little bit at it, so let me try, let me get on it so I get enough time to do it. Supposing you want to write a program what is your first name? Let me write the screen what it looks like. You say to somebody, what's your first name? So they type it in. And you say, well, what's your last name? And they type it in. And then you have a button here. And then what happens is it says, across the screen, it says your name is, like if I put Joe Dart here, it is JD, like that. In other words, what it does is, the way the program works is, it starts off and says, what is your name, you type it in. What is your last name, you type it in. Then you hit the button, and it goes up and comes back and says, your name is, and then it gives you a name, first name, space, last name, okay? Let's write that program, because it's actually got a couple more little doodads in it. All right? So, now what we do is, we erase the whole thing. Start over again. Okay, first of all, I'm going to have to put the word, the input, with a BR over here to make sure it goes down. I'm going to have to do those first, okay? So I go down here to body. I'm going to do it the body right here. And the body is going to center. So style equals text, align, center. Okay. That line's done, and now what you do is you want to say the word first. So they type in their first name, and here's what you write. You write input, type equals text, and ID equals F name. I'm going to give it the name F name right there. The F name. In other words, the ID of this thing is F name. So whatever they type in is going to be the first name. It's going to go in that variable. Okay. And for the second name down here, I'll put a PR over here. So what I got so far is this, and then a return. So I'm over here now. I say last input type equals text, and ID this time equals, going to give it the name L name. So there's his last name right there. Close. BR. So now what I have is they're going to type in something and return. They're going to type something that's going to return again. Now there's the button right here. I got to put the button in. It's got to send both the first and the last name up to the program, the function. I'm going to call this the function. How about whole name? Weird name, but that's it. The name of the function is whole name, and they're going to send up F and L. Those are going to receive two different variables, F and L. First name and the last name are both going to come up to my function. Okay? There it is right there. So what I do is, now what I do is I have to put a button down right here that will send up that and that up to, so it is right? Yeah, up to this program. So I'm going to send the F name and the L name up to the function. So here's how I do it. I say, okay, I have an input, type equals button, value equals press me or something like that, press. Okay, and then on click, what I want to do now is equals quote, I call this thing whole name, and I send the first name, which is F name, dot value, comma, and the L name, dot value, close quote, here we are. There it is. So I say whole name, I go to that function, and I said F name value, which goes to here, and L name value, which goes to here. So whatever they type with my first name and the last name will end up here in F and L. Does that make sense to you? That's what they're going to be. Now the question is, we want to make this expression says, your name is, and their whole name. Now watch how you do that. You say, well, what you do is you say, we're going to have an output. Let me make an output place first. Input area. And type equals text. Text. And ID equals, call it out1 still. You call anything you want, but I'm going to call out1. There it is. Okay, then what we do is we say this. We say, okay, out1 dot value equals, I want to say your name is, quote mark, your name is, space right here, I'll explain that in a second, with the space right here, plus F name, oops, sorry, wrong, sorry about that, wrong, F rather, plus, quote, space, quote, plus last name. There it is. Pretty weird, but that's it. I'll explain to you in a second. Slash body, slash HTML. Let me show you how that works. So what happens is, oh, I got to finish this off like so. There it is. It's all ready to go now. So what happens is, they type in their first name here, they type in their last name here, then they press this button which says, send that first name to here and that last name to here. That's what the button does. Now you get them up here. Now the question is, here's what you do. If you write something inside quotes, it actually will show you exactly those words. It's not a variable, it's words. So if I say, quote, your name is, space, put that space there, you will now see the words, your name, that's what's going to go into here. If I didn't put these other things here, just these words would go into here, and that's what you'd see. Your name is, that's all you'd see. But I added these in. Let me show you what happens. A plus sign, when you have strings, which means you have words, you have text, a plus sign means glue it together. It doesn't mean add it, it means glue it together. So what happens is it glues this expression here, which is in quotes, that exact expression, to whatever's in that variable. Whatever they typed into their variable, they typed in Joe, and Joe's in that variable. So it says your name is space Joe. You want to have a space in there before your name. Plus, and I put a space between the first and last name. See, the space here is just in the quote marks. So it's just a blank space, and I add that to the last name. So what happens here is you get your name is space Joe space Dark. Get it? And that's what it looks like. That's why you put those spaces in there in quotes, because the space goes out on the screen. The space here goes out on the screen because it's in quotes. It goes right on the screen as a space. It's called a data literal, by the way. That's the magic word. But for our purposes, just remember it is whatever's in quotes, it goes on the screen. Whatever it is, it goes on the screen. So you put it in here, and out it comes, and then you get what you want. So, I'll get rid of this. I think this program, pretty much, we're over here. We're pretty much done with this program. So, what I'm trying to accomplish here is this. We're going to have to start talking to the computer and have the computer talk back to us. This is the easy breezy way of doing it, okay? Don't be afraid to write your own programs with anything you want in it, just for practice. But you get the ideas, and online there are some demonstrations of this, probably very similar programs. So you can see how it's done. You might want to just try it. I mean, try it. I don't assign that kind of homework, but you can try it, and you'll see that you can do it. It isn't that hard to do. And pretty soon you'll a little practice, and you'll be able to do anything you want. And that's pretty much it. So I think at this point I'm going to call it a class and do a little bit of online stuff, and that's about it. So if you guys want to stick around, do so. If you don't, you can check out online, okay? As I say, these programs are or some version of them are online now. And you can run the program, you can right mouse, just say view source code and see what they look like. And, you know, and by the way, if you wanted to print them on a piece of paper, you can do that too. You see what they look like, then select them all, copy them, and put them in a notepad or something, copy them back in the album. You can just put them out wherever you want to go. Can I erase this? Can I erase it? Am I ready?